And this is The In Show. And I'm your host, Gus Summers. Good to be back with you today. That's right, we are broadcasting live from our In Show studios from the entertainment capital of the world, Hollywood. And we got a couple great in-studio guests. We got Miss Linda Nelson and Mr. Michael Madison of Nelson Madison Films and Indie Rights. Distribution, or is it just Indie Rights? I have to think about it, because it's distribution, right?
Yeah, Indie Rights is distribution. And, Nelson Madison Films is our production company.
Fantastic, and that's Mr. Michael Madison right there, with the great, fantastic voice. You know, it's wonderful that you have the perspective of every side. You have the distribution, you have the production, you've been involved in the industry. How long?
15 years.
Yeah.
Right.
15 years.
Since 2000.
Yeah, we made our first film was a IMAX large format film. It was called In Sync, Bigger Than Live, and Lynn and I were executive producers on that, and we also did the distribution on that. So we've been working at it since then.
15 years. That's amazing, because you know that in itself in the industry, and nobody's come this far. Yeah,
to stay in business.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's lots of ups and downs, for sure.
And we've seen a lot of companies come and go during that time.
You know, it's funny, you know, if you're past any length of time, actors, models, what have you, they'll come and, right, the same thing. It's like they end up going away. It's an interesting, and it's sad at the same time, because you get to know them. You take their picture, or you see them around, and, you know, what happened to so-and-so? And then, you know, as the time goes by, you know, it becomes smaller pool, and it's like, hey, Michael, hey.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, how difficult is that for you two? You know, you've been involved, 15 years, to see someone come up with a project and then disappear.
Well, that happens all the time. I think a lot of people think that things are going to happen really quickly, and nothing happens really quickly.
Right. For example, there was a company that decided they were going to try and compete with like Amazon and iTunes, and they built a beautiful distribution platform. It was called Chill, and it had great technology, and they spent millions of dollars launching the company, and it didn't make it for a year.
Really?
They had to shut their doors, yeah. And we like to experiment. Part of what's been good for us is that we experiment with new companies, and that's helped us to stay on the forefront of technology. And that was one of the companies we decided, this looks great, we're going to give it a shot. And we did, and we loved it. So we were sorry that it failed. I think the reason it failed was they failed to grasp how important social media marketing was, and how important it is for the filmmakers, the independent filmmakers, to really own some responsibility for marketing their films. And that's a big change from the past. In the past, indie filmmakers, they would hand their film over to somebody else and keep their fingers crossed, and most of the time they never saw any money.
Right.
But now, for the first time, if filmmakers are willing to embrace that concept of being an artist entrepreneur,
yes,
they can really get their films out to a really large audience.
Right. You know,
Major difference.
Yeah, because it seems to be catch-22 in film and music, the whole thing, where you would hand it off. They were the money, they had the connections, and they would have you, but you had no say in it. But now you have basically, a large part of the say, but none of those bonuses or extras. You have to develop your following. You have to develop, the connections. Are they, like you're saying, kind of naive in that regards? Like they know it but don't know it?
I wouldn't say they are naive. I think it's just a new concept, don't you think, Michael?
Well, for our level, I'm sorry, I got choked up a little bit over the story. But for our level, we are independent films and independent film distributors, and it's a totally different level, totally different than the studios. So all independent filmmakers they have to market their films. They have to, everything now is, excuse me, it's computer based or digital. Everything's digital. So you need to filmmakers need to get good at promoting themselves digitally with Facebook or Twitter or anything like that, just to get a following. Sorry about that.
And your question about whether they're naive or not, I think they just have never in the past had to do it, and it's only now that these opportunities have arisen. And a big part of our mission as a distributor is to try and educate filmmakers about how to do that. So we have we have marketing workshops at our office in downtown LA where all of the local filmmakers can come. We have conference calls, Skype calls with the filmmakers that live out of town to help them understand how social media works and how they can build their audience. And the ones that embrace it are starting to do well.
Right. Yeah. Because, that's kind of like, what we do. Our whole concept was, social media. That's how it got started. It wasn't print and it wasn't the traditional means. And, there are nuances that you have to learn and adapt to. Do percentage, just a guess. As someone comes to you with their film, what percentage do you say understand what you're talking about? Everyone understands social media. They promote themselves. But promoting a film, promoting a project.
Very specific.
Yes, it's very different than that. Look at me, here I'm at, so-and-so restaurant, look at my food I'm eating.
Right.
Do they kind of catch the nuance, or do they think it's just like promoting themselves? Hey,
Well, the problem with a lot of the filmmakers is that they've been working on their film for so long that they are tired of talking about their film. They're tired of promoting their film. So they, they may promote the film for a month after they get distribution, but it's an endless tail, the digital distribution, and you need to keep promoting it over a long period of time. And a lot of filmmakers, they just run out of gas. Well, a lot of them do.
Because it would make sense, because if it's an indie film, it's not on a normal schedule of a few months. It's probably taking them 3-4 years,
Exactly.
Find the funding, get everyone
Right.
on board, and now it's done. And this is where normally you would hand it off to somebody, but they have to keep
Exactly.
going with it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is that kind of one of the first things you tell them? Okay, we're just beginning now.
Yeah.
It is, and you were asking about what percentage. I would say that probably not even 5% of the filmmakers are social media savvy when
Really?
they come to us. I would say, right? 5-10%.
I would say so, yes.
That's all.
Yeah.
And
They-
so you're teaching them from scratch. One of the first things we do is try to research with the filmmaker how social media savvy they are, because that's critical to the success of the film. So if a filmmaker, even if they have a great film, if they say to me, "Oh, I hate Facebook, I'm not on Facebook, I'm not interested in doing that," we're not likely to take their film,
Okay.
because they
Okay. They don't.
no
they don't
one's going to
understand.
know about you. The studios spend millions and millions of dollars on advertising.
Yes.
Okay, and so independent filmmakers have to embrace social media. They
Yes.
have to. It's critical to their success.
Right.
So we try to teach them. We're writing an ebook right now,
No, nice.
and we have a private group where we share best practices and
Right.
tips. And,
Yes.
and
And these are also part of the group sessions that you have in your offices?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So little tricks of the trade, of course.
Right,
Exactly.
and sometimes there'll be filmmakers that know more about a specific aspect of social media than
Oh,
we
sure.
do, and so now we've built like a whole tribe, because we have over 300 films now,
It's amazing.
and if
Well, we have-
everyone contributes and shares information, we're getting a lot of data.
Yes.
We have a filmmaker that's based out of Detroit. He does crime documentaries. His name's Al Prophet, and he's got a great YouTube channel, and he just cross-promotes everything, and his numbers are really good, and they're always steady.
Yes.
The numbers are always really steady. That's the future for independent filmmakers. They need to be able to do something like that. It should be a steady money over a long period of time,
Yes.
instead of, it's not going to be like the studio films, where you get a big,
Big
Yeah.
peak, and then it drops
Yeah.
off.
Right. Yes, it has to be that consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Yeah, very nice. You know, because it's great because you talk to different people. You guys have been in the industry. I'm in the industry. What a great project! You gotta see my film, or look at me. You gotta see our star. I know. Everyone's beautiful, and you're gonna be floored. I know. It's interesting, and how much talking down do you have to do with artists or filmmaker? I know you have the best project. I know, Oscar worthy.
Yeah, that. Yes. You have to bust their bubble
a little bit.
At the very beginning, and they
the reality of filmmaking, right?
Yeah, they take it personally, but you do have to, because a lot of people, they see, they think that independent filmmaking is kind of like what it was in the 90s.
Yeah, right.
And it's no longer that. It's not even close to that.
Right.
It's not even the same, because there's so many films that are being made now. I mean, back in the 90s, there was only a few films that are being made, and they were all 35 millimeter, and they were it's just different.
Yeah, it was just the quality they had. Yeah, because I remember in the 90s, one of the films that really stood out, and he went on to be an actor, of prominence. Brothers McMillan.
Yes.
Yeah.
That always is. Well, that was held up as an example. Look at,
Yeah.
but how many of those were there?
Yeah.
There were very few. He was unknown. The whole cast was unknown.
Mhm.
But then you look at like Sex, Lies, and Videotapes, which is a small movie. Yeah, but look at the cast.
Yeah.
It was a large cast. Name recognition.
Right.
So those kind of examples. Do you feel like those examples have kind of fallen away because of digital and social
I
media?
think we were talking about that. I don't.
Yes.
I don't. I watched Swingers a couple of days ago, and so many actors came out of that movie.
Yes.
And nowadays, I can't really think of any films that have unknown actors in it, or unknown,
That explode that way.
that explode like that, like they used to do. And now Sundance is happening right now as we're talking, and
Right.
I don't know, the whole thing's all changed. It's changed a lot since.
And this is where you guys come in.
Yes. So this is the new.
Sundance, I think there's only 16 feature films in competition. That's nothing,
Right.
okay, out of the thousands of films that are made. So, we're not interested in, making a mad rush to go to Sundance to buy films and compete with people like Magnolia
Yes.
and, Weinstein. So
Well,
that's
that's
not
a
our
different-
business
yeah,
model.
exactly.
So we're much more interested in the next layer down.
Right.
That being said, many of the films at Sundance don't get distribution. There are not too many multi-million-dollar offers being passed out these days. We've actually have 2 Sundance films now in our library that didn't get distribution because there are a lot of films that distributors feel are not commercial enough, to reach a broad audience. And what I love about the internet is today you can hyper-target small niches.
Yes.
And so you can acquire a film that really has a smaller audience, but now you can reach them. In the past, there was no way to hyper-target. You just had to throw a lot of money out there in a broad way. And
Right.
so, what we've realized is that we can find small audiences. For example, like Frey. Like this movie was a $25,000 feature. Beautifully shot, but practically no budget, right?
Right.
And it has gotten the same distribution that a studio film would get. It had a limited theatrical release. It went out on cable VOD. It's had a
LA Times review.
The LA Times reviewed it, loved it. It's been gone to Walmart, Best Buy, and sold out in Barnes and Noble. And now it's available on every major digital platform. Now that's unheard of for a $25,000 film.
Right.
Just unheard of. So, and the thing is that major distributors wouldn't touch it. The director of this film, he tried for 2 years to get a traditional distribution deal. 2 years. And we had met him at Dances with Films because we were both alumni of that festival. And we had 2 films there in the past. And so I had kind of kept up with him, maybe once every 3 or 4 months. I'd send him an email, say, have you got distribution yet? Keep us in mind.
Yes.
And finally, after 2 years, he came back to us. And the biggest problem regular distributors had with it was, who wants to see a depressing film about some veteran who's come back wounded from the war?
Right.
We don't think it'll sell.
Yes.
Who wants to watch that?
Yeah.
Well,
it turned out.
we took the totally opposite tack and said, do you know how many veterans there are? Do you know how many families and friends, everyone you know knows someone who's come back from the war
Right.
and is having issues? Everyone. So, and the film got such great reviews and such great feedback from veterans, where vets said, this is the most realistic, portrayal we've seen of a soldier coming back and the challenges that they have to face.
Yeah.
And so with that, we were able to hyper-target veterans, people with PTSD, and that's a very specific niche market, but there are thousands of groups. Every city in the United States has a group to support veterans. And this happens to be a great movie for families to watch and help understand, what they're going through. So that's what I mean about, being able to hyper-target a niche. And that's something that was not available before the internet.
Yes. Yes. Very nice. Very nice. Right, because even when I find that when you talk to people about, social media, the internet, they know it but don't understand it. And it's like a hit and miss. It's interesting, even with the large studios, they still don't understand social media. Do you think that's like with independent films? While looking at it, it seems like if you can figure it out, you have the gold mine. But it's expressing it to the person so that they can understand. It's like what we were talking about earlier, trying to express that to somebody. So you feel like you were saying, you got the niche. You feel like you have the gold nugget here, and now you're trying to share it.
Right. And then that can allow it, once it gets a certain level of success, then it can be crossover into a broader audience. So filmmakers, when they're making a film, I think a lot of times filmmakers will make a film and they don't have any specific audience in mind when they make their film. They just have an idea, I want to make this movie about this. And
Right.
I think now, in order to be successful, you need to think who your audience is going to be.
Nice.
And for example, one of the hardest things for us to do with an independent film is is a comedy that's just kind of geared towards anyone if it's not about something.
Right.
Or a drama.
Very hard. Or a drama that's just a general drama.
Very specific niche films sell pretty
Should have some kind of issue behind it, and you're starting to see this even with studio films. You look now even at The Imitation Game, where that guy had specific mental issues,
Right.
right? And we're seeing a lot of films now where there are specific mental issues or, psychological issues, involved that, start conversations.
Yes.
You need something in the movie to start a conversation about.
Yes.
Probably the exception is maybe horror films. They're just,
You know what you get.
Yeah, and we have quite a few. We have 30 or so horror films in our thing.
It was like Swingers had a niche also, the dancing and the
Ballroom dancing.
ballroom
right?
dancing. I think they
Yes.
grabbed onto that and
Right. Because I know your library, you have, a variety, and you just don't pick, similar films. You just really pick what basically what comes May, what you think will sell. Because I know you brought another example, ruining it with
Let's Ruin It with Babies.
With babies, yeah.
I mean,
that's completely utterly different from Frey.
totally. And we really don't, distinguish between genres. We have pretty even spread between drama, comedy, horror, documentary, and that's because we think that all films are great.
Yes.
And that they all independent films that are well made and tell a good story and have good acting deserve to find a place in the world.
Right.
So that's our mission. I mean, we want that for ourselves and our own films that we make, and we want that for other independent
Yeah.
filmmakers. So,
And like in this particular film, you gave an example with Frey, how
right.
Jeff was, a couple years, and
Oh, yeah.
he remembered you and came back. And how about with Kristen here, with Ruining It With
She
Babies?
lives right around the corner. And this is really a very local film and a
Yes.
local filmmaker.
But it sells so well because of the name. I mean, it's the
Great
title
name.
of the film. It's
Yes.
got a niche for new parents.
What drew you to it? You saw it. It's okay. Say, did you?
I
did
like
you-
the idea that that's a difficult decision for people to face.
Right.
All young couples get into a discussion at some point about when to start their family.
Yeah.
And often there's a disagreement about that. No, I'm not ready. And in this case, this is about a girl who wants to, do something else first before she starts a family, and her husband's ready to start a family. So, and she doesn't want to mess up their great relationship by bringing a child into it. And we actually have 3 movies that are on that same topic. One is called A Beautiful Belly, and it's
About the process, yeah.
a couple where the woman is pregnant,
Yeah.
and he's freaking out because he's frightened of the responsibility that parenthood brings.
Yes.
So I thought that was besides having a great poster and it's shot beautifully, and a really catchy title, which is really important.
Yes.
A lot of people don't put much thought into their title, but it's really
It is. Yeah. Catching. Yeah.
right.
Yes.
It's just an important topic, and
Yeah.
it's so easy to find, say on Facebook,
Right.
young parents, that are,
Yes.
or
Yes.
couples that are facing
Yeah.
that, and
And-
pregnancy and all
Yeah.
of that. It's so easy to talk
Right.
about that.
And how was that process? Getting that, choosing that film. Did you have to pursue her for a little bit, or was the opportunity just right there and she went with you guys? What was kind of the
That
process?
came through distributors, so you could talk about that. How we work with
This
companies.
came through a distributor called Devolver Distributor. Devolver Distribution. And they didn't have a digital outlet.
Oh, gotcha.
So we helped them with that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so it was kind of a joint venture kind of
Exactly,
here. So
yeah.
here's your
Yes.
expertise with the digital.
And they have great taste, so that helped. So they curate very highly. And
nice.
it's called Devolver Digital Films, and they started out as a game company, but then they wanted to branch into indie films as well.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
But we picked this one for the theatrical run just because of the name, the quality of the film, and
Right.
it was a good film. So that was one of our first ones we did about a year ago.
Yeah.
We met you there.
Yes.
That was where we met you.
We're now actually working with about 5 other distributors who
Nice.
started in the business too late to get direct partnerships with the major platforms.
I gotcha.
We were really, really fortunate that we got into the business like 2006.
Right.
That's when it was all bubbling and
That's when we
starting
started
to
our
happen.
digital company.
Right.
What happened is we made NSYNC Bigger Than Live. We tried to make another IMAX style film. It was going to be a motocross film documentary. And 9/11 happened, and then there was just no money. So we had to kind of regroup. We had a company called Really Big Film Corp at the time back then. We had to close that company down and regroup. Linda and I did, and we got pretty dark there for a while, but we made another independent film that we financed ourselves with our credit cards.
Yes.
And it was
Delivered?
no, it was shifted.
Shifted. Okay.
It was shifted. We shot it with a Canon. What was the camera? XL1S.
Oh yeah. Maybe it was an
So it was
XL1.
that time in the early 2000s when everybody was shooting with those Canons.
Yes.
And
The little tapes.
Yeah.
the little tapes. It doesn't really stand up the test of time. When you watch the film later on, it's looks a little watercolory. The
Right,
colors
sure.
just don't look that great. But from there, we went and did the film festivals. We were on Dances with Films film festival, and from there we met a lot of other filmmakers, and we were all getting distribution deals from companies, but they were really bad agreements.
Yes.
And, you know, we went to this one person that we met with, and they were just talking up our film, and I'm like, our film's not that good. I don't know what you're talking about. So, you know, it was one of those deals where they sign all your rights. And so what you always want to do when you're an independent filmmaker is you want to call the distributors, the producers that are distributing their films with a distributor. You call those filmmakers, and they'll either tell you they're having a good experience or they're having a bad experience, and called a few, and one person was crying on the phone, another person was took the distribution company to court, and it cost them like $20,000 in court
Get their
fees.
film back.
So Linda got a bunch of filmmakers together, and she went to American Film Mark, and that's pretty much how we started Indie Rights. That was about 2006.
Yep.
And from there, it's just slowly grown, and we've acquired a lot more films. Then we made that film Delivered, and that was shot with the Red camera, so it's a big step up.
Yeah.
Every film you want to, every independent film you make, you want to do a big step up, you know. So.
And what's beautiful is that, you know, anyone who knows me knows I'm the kind that use what you have.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
you know, then go from there. And I love that you used what you had, which was you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I
started-
moved to Los Angeles because I wanted to be. I'm from Texas, and after graduation, I graduated from Texas Tech. I moved out here, and I wanted to be a filmmaker and an actor. And so I took classes at Playhouse West. That's in North Hollywood, and did that for 3 years or 4 years, and then I made that film Shifted, and then we made the other film Delivered. So, yeah, but we finance those with our credit cards.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yes.
if you want to make a film, you know, you got to do that. I don't want to finance a film with a credit card because that was insane.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of filmmakers kind of get off on the wrong foot by going, "Oh, I'm just going to be this starving artist," right?
Yes.
Rather, we took kind of a different path and said we're going to be responsible artists.
Nice.
And
It takes a little
you know,
longer, but
it does, and so we bootstrapped our company with our own good credit,
yes.
so to speak.
Yes.
And you can't beat that. Most of the filmmakers we meet have no credit or lousy credit. They're in debt. And,
Right.
You know, and it's you know, I think it really puts a big strain on your creativity.
Sure.
You know, so we were fortunate. We had a day job that
Lynn and I had
allowed
a day
us
job.
Yes.
to do our filmmaking at night and
Yes.
our
That's
distribution at
beautiful.
night.
Because
Yeah.
it always reminds me of the story. Robert Townsend. Remember Robert Townsend? He always talks about his first film. You know, he did the same thing, credit cards, these mobile credit cards. He goes, I was buying people lunch with mobile,
Yeah.
on my mobile card.
Yeah. That's,
Because that's fantastic because that's the truth of it.
uh-huh.
You know, unless you got a big deal, which is very, you know, very seldom.
Yeah.
You know, you aren't acquiring the money. You aren't or financing like yourselves, and that's beautiful. I love that about you guys because you went through the whole process.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, with NSYNC, that was NSYNC Bigger Than Live, the IMAX film. That was at the time when the .coms and all. There's a lot of money out there, so we had one investor for that.
Yes.
But after that, and then if I wanted to direct the film, I wanted to learn how to make a movie, and I thought it was a little late to go to film school, so I just was going to do it myself. And Linda and I, we financed it ourselves, and we bought the editing system, you know, and
Read every book we could get our hands on, watched
Everything.
every
watched
DVD,
so many
special
movies, you
comment.
know. And I think also a lot of young filmmakers these days fail to watch a lot of good classic films.
Yes.
You know,
Nice.
and so, you know, a lot of them lack, you know,
Kind of a perspective.
Yeah, perspective on,
Yeah.
on how to tell a story, and you know, and we can tell, you know, who's paid attention to film and has
Yes.
watched film and knows
Yeah.
how to tell a story, and it's important. So you know, we tried, you know, there's so much knowledge out there now for free. You can learn how to do everything. I mean, we didn't go to film school, and Michael learned how to do special effects with the editing system by having a laptop with tutorials, YouTube tutorials on how to do the special effects in
Yes.
Adobe.
Yeah.
So we have big explosions and a war scene
Yes.
in Delivered that he was able to do just because he was willing to learn
Yeah.
and watch YouTube
I can't remember
videos.
how to do any of it
No.
right now. But,
So we'll have to do that again.
Yeah,
But,
sit down.
Yes.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of people aren't willing to think a little bit outside the box. They somehow feel limited. My parents taught me growing up, you can learn how to do anything.
Right.
If you can read, you can do or be anything you want. And
That's
so
very nice.
I was encouraged, that way,
Yes.
growing up, and it's true. Their information is out there.
To be able to garner and to benefit your
Yep.
project like you guys did. Yeah, that's amazing. I love stories like that. I'm the same way. What do I need to do? Okay, well let's figure it out. Every once in a while you'll get the person who says, I'll do it. And then they actually do
We
it.
never edited before, and
Yeah.
totally learned how to edit from scratch.
well, also the problem is when you're doing an independent film and someone says, "Oh, I'll edit the film for you," but if you don't have any money to pay them,
You're right.
before you know it, they're off doing something else.
Yes.
So
And you're trying to get the film back.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, unless they want to do it for credit, get their name out there.
And also, as a director, he knows what he wants. He doesn't want someone else to edit.
Oh yeah, it's a little hard.
That's funny because people will learn the stages. The director has his vision, the editor has their vision, and unless you're
And the writer.
and the writer, unless you're the actor, everything.
Everybody's got their vision.
And then at some point you got okay, I'll just let it go.
Yeah,
This is not the film I made.
exactly.
That reminds me of a story about Kurt Russell and Kevin Costner, 3,000 Miles from Graceland.
Yeah.
You've seen it,
Yes.
haven't you? I remember watching it the first time. I go, yeah, it's like I'm watching two films. Because you have Kurt Russell being light and Kevin Costner being all dark. Well, they shot the film simultaneously but separately. So they never really had, So when I heard Kurt Russell doing the interview, he goes, I watch it. I go, I'm like watching a different film. This is what I was told it was going to be. Then when I heard that, I went back and I was like, it's
makes
literally it's like
sense.
two films. Yeah, because Kevin Costner's all dark.
Yeah.
Good film though. So is that talking about that, is that something that you encourage your filmmakers to do? To watch films and get more familiar with their craft.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that pacing is something that filmmakers need to learn, especially for a feature film. Maybe a short would be a little bit easier, but a feature film, the pacing is something that we watched a film last night. What was the film we watched last night? Elia Kazan directed in 1976.
No. Oh, the last
Robert Mitchum was in it.
The Last Tycoon, the last big
Nice,
tycoon.
yeah, right.
The pacing I thought was really bad.
It's slow.
It was really slow, and I
It
thought
was
that it could have
slow.
been a really better film if they would have tightened it up.
It was like 2.5 hours
Those are
long.
and there are so many huge names in that film.
Yeah, I think everyone want to get screen time, bro.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we try to tell filmmakers. Sometimes we'll get indie filmmakers that make these 2-hour films, and we're like, you know what? You can't do that. You're not Stanley Kubrick yet. You have, it needs to be as tight as possible.
Right.
First of all, then they get upset that they don't get in festivals. Festivals find it hard to program overly long
Yeah, right.
films.
Yeah.
And
Nice. Yeah, nice point.
so it's a good idea to try to keep it around 90 minutes, 95 minutes, something like that's good for an independent film. And the other thing we see that indie filmmakers do all the time, which is really crazy, they so want to promote, the people that contributed to the film
Right.
and themselves, that they'll have a 10-minute credit sequence
In the front of the film.
in the front of the film.
Nice.
And
Because now we're doing it's all digital distribution. So if you put your film on Hulu,
Yes.
and they start watching it, and there's a long credit at the very beginning, the person's going to click on to something else.
Yeah, right away.
And I know it's a totally people don't like to be told how to make their films, but that's something that
There's
a lot
tricks,
of
yeah.
digital people
Yeah.
But
looking
you can
at.
just speed that up. I mean, it shouldn't be more than a minute, really.
Right.
You shouldn't have to sit through more than a minute or two of credits.
And they're probably appreciative. Their aunt finally lent them the money, and their
Right.
uncle said,
Right.
"Got to give them credit."
Right.
It's that's great. I remember. I don't know if I've ever seen a longer at the end. Remember the Blues Brothers?
Yeah.
Yes.
How long does that go on for? Like 20 minutes?
Yeah.
They give credit to everybody on that
Yep.
one. I even thought I saw my Uncle Bob in there. It was just- Great film, though.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Very upset. They're tearing down the House of Blues on Sunset.
I heard about that. Is it just
Really sad.
Are they
It's going to be part of that new big millennium
yeah, gotcha.
project they're putting up there, and it's a shame because it's a real LA institution.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of bands have played there, a lot of indie bands. Wow.
Yeah.
I've gone there a lot of times. Talking about going back to what you had said about festivals. What are kind of some of the things you would suggest to a filmmaker? About festivals. Does it? Each one's different, I know. But did you kind of give them a general guideline? If you want to get into festivals, your film should be,
I think it's
2 minute
important.
credits.
No, well, not so much that. I'm just thinking of that for digital platforms. But I think the film needs to be at 90 minutes. But festivals are important for filmmakers because it, what's the word that our friend Jerome always uses?
Perceived value.
Yes. So if you're in a lot of really good film festivals, it gives your film value. You get reviews,
Press.
press.
Yes.
I mean, it is hard to sell a film. We are getting some films that are not doing the film festivals route, and it's very hard to convince a platform that your film is worthy of being on the platform because they don't watch the film. They can't really.
Right.
They don't want to go by their own taste. So what helps is if you have some film festivals you've been into, you have to have your IMDb page. You have to have a presence on the web because everything's digital now, and they can only go by what is on the internet.
Right.
So if you're not in any film festivals, then they're like, well, they aren't so sure about the film. It's
So certain platforms are curated. And what they take into consideration is who's in it, what festivals has it been to, and how many social media fans do they have. Because they want to see that the filmmaker is interested in building an audience for their film too.
Right.
And you better when you're in film festivals, you automatically get an IMDb page. So those four things are really, really important. And so when somebody comes to us with a film and they don't have a website, they're not on Facebook, it's really hard for us to consider taking it, because it doesn't take too much effort. And these days, you should start your social media building when you're in pre-production, so that by the time you finish your film and start to go on the festival circuit, you've already got an audience of 5,000 people or whatever.
Yeah, nice.
And that's not hard. It's not hard to do.
Great busy. My mind's full of questions now. What do they look for in regards to social media? Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Are they looking that there is just a presence, not necessarily, millions of hits and millions of followers, just that there's a consistent presence? Is that what they're looking for? People actually engage,
Yeah, engagement's really important because you could have somebody that bought a bunch of followers on Facebook that are all in Turkey and they don't mean anything.
And it's Turkey.
Yeah, but if there's interaction with the fans, just a presence out there. We met with Hulu at one time and. Their question to us was, what are you going to do to market your film? So that's what we have to ask filmmakers, what are you going to do to market your film? Because
He made me tape that in a sign.
Yeah, what are you going to do to
Right.
market?
Yeah,
On the
because
phone, so when I talk to filmmakers,
because a lot of times
I ask.
filmmakers in their head, they think that once they give it to a distributor, they're going to market the film.
Right.
And that's just not the way it is.
You're right.
And so people like digital platforms like Hulu, they like to see that a filmmaker's very active with digital sites like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, because that means that people are going to look at the Hulu page.
Something that they can. It just slipped my mind the phrase I was going to use, but something that they can use, bounce off,
Yes,
a
yeah.
springboard off, or what have you. That there was something to work with.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And most people get it. You should already understand that.
They get
You
it.
need
I don't-
some sort of.
I don't know if they follow it, but they get it.
They
They say they get it.
They follow it when they're showing their pizza crusts. And in regards to that, So they bring you your film, and they get the social media. Okay, I got so many followers on all these platforms, and so you agree to take it. Okay, we're going to take it now, and you then present it to the digital platforms like you were talking about, or are there a couple other steps that they need to do, or they're pretty much in your hands now that you've taken it and they've have
Well,
their
first of
followers?
all, I think a lot of filmmakers have a misconception about how complex it is to get films up on the internet.
Right.
And it's interesting now because it's actually more difficult with digital than it was with film and DVD. And part of that is because these platforms have quality control that is done with software, and it picks up every flaw
Yeah.
in the movie.
Yes.
If you have a sound dropout where people's lips are moving and there's no audio because you dropped a clip when you were editing it, it can pick that up. It knows if you've got mono stereo instead of paired stereo. It picks up any flaws, any digital artifacts. So because that's every film that goes on the internet now has to pass these very rigid standards. The biggest issue we have with filmmakers now is getting them to follow the specs that we give them. We
Right.
give them an actual written specification that tells them what bit rate to use, exactly how to send us the film so that we know that it will pass. We can't have like color bars and tones in the front of the film, and
So take those off. Everybody
no,
puts those on.
right, no FBI warning cards and no internet URLs. They don't want that.
Yeah. They just want a raw film. They'll add those.
Exactly.
Film.
Exactly.
They'll
And
add
so-
on that. Okay.
Probably a third of the films that get submitted to us, even though we have sent them all these detailed specifications, don't pass our preliminary QC when we look at it to check that all of these happen.
Nice. Okay.
Because if we send films to the platforms and they're not to their specifications, our reputations,
Right.
in trouble. So we have to be careful. So
Yeah.
we really carefully check it, and a full third of them have to go back to the filmmaker and say, "No,
Okay.
you got to fix this, you got to
Yeah.
fix that." Now, some of the things we can't even detect, and so even after we send them to a digital platform, they'll find issues that we haven't found,
Okay.
and then we have to.
Which would be understandable because
Yeah.
they're looking
So
for
there
it.
is
Yeah.
that process, and also
It takes a long time. It's
the filmmaker sends us a file, and then we have to re-encode it to
For
a
every
different
single
spec
platform,
for each
that's different.
platform.
Yeah.
and every single platform has a
Yes.
different metadata sheet.
Yes.
And the metadata sheet, every single one of them has one person uses a comma, one person uses a space. So we have to do that, and then we send it off.
And they all have
Posters.
different art specifications. The poster specifications are different for every single platform.
Right.
One wants it this size, one wants it this DPI,
Yes.
One wants no log lines or credits on it. So, there's a lot of preparation that's involved before we can even then deliver it.
Right.
And these are enormous files. They're 120 gig,
Yes.
a feature
Yeah.
film.
Huge.
And that's at, standard HD right now. As we move to 4K, the files will be 10 times that size. You'll be talking close to a terabyte for each file.
Yes.
And, at our office, we don't have fast enough internet to upload those from there, so we pay for an internet connection at another location that does have.
Yeah. A T1
High
or
speed.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have to walk down the street with physical hard drives and then connect
And take it
those
over
so
there,
that
yeah.
they're there.
Yeah.
So technology is a very, very important
Yes.
part of it, and something that most filmmakers are totally unaware of.
Right.
It's like a behind-the-scenes things that we have to deal with.
Right. To make it the quality that needs to be
Right? Because
used.
there's a real competition. I mean, iTunes, Amazon,
Yeah.
Google Play, Hulu, they want to make sure that that image looks great when it's delivered to, their
their audience.
People are paying for it.
We have 4 films on the MGO's 4K. That's the
yeah.
newest. That's our newest. Frey was one of them. But anyways, it's an awesome, amazing thing that MGO has. Their 4K.
Right. On Samsung 4K televisions,
Yes.
we have 4 films available from our library in 4K.
Fantastic.
Yes, that's really exciting.
So all this that you're describing. So when a filmmaker approaches you, you tell them all this. You forward all this information to them that you need it at this type of format and what
Yes.
have you, and then
Yeah.
they take their film to see if, or do they submit their film
Well,
first?
Two
They submit
things.
their film first.
Yeah, they send us either a DVD and a Blu-ray,
Okay.
plus an online screener. And the reason we want the online screener is because some of our partners want to look at the
Okay.
online screener.
Okay.
And we don't want to have to be mailing out DVDs.
Yeah, sure.
But we like to look at it, watch the DVD or a Blu-ray, so that we see it the way the audience is going to see it. Most of those films are not going to have big theatrical runs, so most people are going to see it on their television,
Yes.
right? So we want to experience it when we're watching it the way the audience is going to experience it. So we do that, plus we have an online form on our website and
Okay.
on Facebook
Yeah.
that has all of this metadata that Michael was talking about, and all the information we need to make a decision about the film.
Okay.
You know,
Great.
where's the trailer link? Who's the director? Who's the writer? Who are the stars in it? What's your IMDb number? What festivals have you been in?
Okay.
What's your Facebook page?
Right.
Who recommended you to us? Because
Oh,
we
nice.
don't really go out and solicit films. Every film that we have has come to us.
Okay.
Either through a couple of festivals that we do go to here in LA, or friends of ours that are in the business that recommend us, or one of the 5 distributors, other sub-distributors that we work with.
Oh, gotcha. So by the time they reach you, they've already kind of done the festivals. They've already kind of
Yes.
done all this stuff. So it's
Yeah.
just ready for a wide distribution on
Yes.
all the platforms. Okay, gotcha. So boy, it's we got 10 more minutes. Wanted wanted to ask you about when you develop films. Now, do you develop films solely for yourselves, or do you actually get outside projects and develop the whole thing all the way up to distribution?
Right now, we're doing it just for ourselves.
Okay.
We've been writing a script for a while, but it's just for ourselves.
We like to write the scripts ourselves.
Do you?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have a large pool of money that wants to make a bunch of films. So right now we're writing a film that's a private investigator type of film. But what we do is for our own.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So have you had,
We read a lot of other people's scripts, but we've never come across one that we really thought was a complex enough story, or the structure was exactly the way we like to tell it.
Yeah, good.
Well,
It's very hard.
Yeah, the problem at our level when you get someone else's script is that you have to, they want to be paid.
They
It's understandable.
They want a voice.
It's just understandable, but we're just too small to. We're not on that level.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not a mini major. It has.
Right. Your focus is really distribution.
Yeah.
We'd like it to be more
both.
balanced
Yeah.
in making and distributing.
Right.
Right now, it's kind of a little more focused on the distribution, simply because we're hoping that this will grow to the point where it will finance our filmmaking.
Yeah. Nice.
So,
Nice.
because this becomes like a passive revenue stream. It's very similar to real estate investing.
Yes.
And these films are going to keep throwing off money forever.
Right.
We've got films in our library that are more than 20 years old.
Yeah.
Sometimes we take films that used to be with a traditional distributor, and they never made any money, but they have names in them, and then they come to us and we rebirth them.
And I think
Oh,
that's.
interesting. Really.
I think
Oh,
that's
that
the business model for the filmmakers. Like Al Prophet, that's his business model. He's got 5 films, and they're all crime documentaries, so they're relatively cheap to inexpensive to produce. But he's always going to have that revenue coming in.
Because they've been picked up.
The more films he makes, the bigger that revenue stream is going to get. And
So instead of a filmmaker, getting this huge amount of money up front for their project, which is, if you have
Rare.
a bunch of films, you can always have that revenue stream always coming in.
Right.
I think that's the business model that filmmakers should kind of look at right now.
Right.
and us having the company was allowed us to give up our day job so that we could focus full time,
It's beautiful.
on our company. So eventually it got big enough to cover the rent and our overhead. And, but it took us quite a while to
It's taken a
do
long
that.
time.
And we had to be very persistent and stay
Well,
with it.
15 years isn't that really that long. And it's actually been less because then you had to regroup and do it again.
It
Yeah,
seemed
well,
like
the
a long time.
distribution's only.
Yeah,
distribution
perceived.
part is-
Was it perceived value?
Well, the first 5 or 6 years we were just trying to make movies.
Yeah.
So we didn't start the distribution until we realized that we needed to.
Yeah, right. And that's the one that's really kind of taken off.
Mhm,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Because you have screenings and at the theaters, local theaters. You
Yes.
have red carpets
Yeah.
and you have photographers. You have
Yeah.
you give them the whole shebang. I know
Oh,
I've been
yeah.
there.
That's great for building awareness for the film, to have the red carpet.
Yeah. How's that play with the platforms? Do they care that you have a theatrical?
They love it.
It just adds to the value.
It adds to the value. Getting the pictures out there from the different photographers. The LA Times review goes all over the United States, and small newspapers in other parts of the United States will pick up that review. It just gives the film credibility.
Nice.
It
Yeah.
really gives it a lot of credibility. So
Because I know both of these had
Yes.
red carpets.
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
did 10 last year, and we've already done 2 this year.
Yes.
4 more coming up. So
Oh, beautiful.
yeah, it gives a lot of credibility to the film.
Yeah. So the whole
even if
package.
even if the review isn't great,
It's still
it's
got out
still
there.
an LA Times review.
Yeah.
And every time they've still put a picture in the paper, even if the review isn't great.
Yeah.
So to be in print in LA Times and
Yeah.
online, it's there forever, that review.
Right.
You can't get that without at least a 1 week.
And how's that? Do you see that as a need to be changed? As print is kind of dying out and everything's going to digital. Do you see any future change or no immediate concern about that? I guess just do the review
I don't think
online,
the print
right?
is quite so important anymore,
Yeah.
and I think it's just eventually going to dry up.
And just go online, so you
and
get you get an
it'll all-
online
all
print.
be online, I think, eventually,
No.
or on our watch, or
Yeah, that's right.
or in our Google Glass. Or,
I'm just looking for the time where I can just click my temple and I can see it in my my contact.
Yes.
Scan my hand over the we got a few more minutes, but I want to give you an opportunity to mention your websites, your Facebooks, and everything. Where people can find out more about you
Sure.
guys.
Become a fan on Facebook. It's Indie Rights Movies. That's our Facebook page. Become a fan on there. You can see all of our new films that are coming out.
a YouTube channel.
YouTube
It's,
channel.
An actual movie rental channel, and a lot of people aren't aware that YouTube has movies for rent, but all studio movies are available to rent
Yes.
on YouTube. So our YouTube movie rental channel is youtube.com/indie rights,
Oh, great.
and that actually is a global channel. It's in 120 countries,
Oh, beautiful. Wonderful.
and
And
our
your
production company is Nelson Madison Films, so they have that. There's also a Facebook page for that.
is there a .com?
Yeah,
There is,
NelsonMadisonFilms.com. That's our
or
website.
IndieRights.com.
Or IndieRights.com,
Right.
and that's where
They
when
take you to the same place. And
okay.
Make sure you check out Delivered. That's my movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Deliveredmovie.com. That'll take you to the website, but it's on all the digital platforms.
No,
and Twitter is Nelson Madison,
oh, beautiful, Nelson Madison, beautiful.
at Nelson Madison.
That's great because that's a film that you can talk about intimately there.
Yeah.
That it's on all the platforms.
All the platforms.
And how was that? Now, did you enter that one in festivals as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Dances with Films. That was the local film festival that we were in, and
World Fest. in
World Fest.
Houston.
but yeah.
Now, talking about festivals, does it matter what festival it is, or is it, if
Well,
it's at Cannes, if it's at Sundance, or does it matter?
If it's in the top 10, it's really, really important.
Okay.
But it's hard to get into the top 10.
It's
So,
almost
Cannes,
impossible
Sundance,
because they're pretty much
Tribeca.
yeah.
Yeah.
studio or mini studio
So,
related.
so the platforms, the digital platforms, are they as concerned about the ranking, or is it that you just got it out there and actually submitted it and doing some
think
work with it?
Both.
So if they happen to have something from
It gives them
Tribeca,
prestige.
just a little better. If not,
You know what? They want niche films a lot of times. A lot of times that's the most important.
they just want a niche film. Really?
A lot of times that's what sells.
Well, they want something that they think is marketable.
Yeah,
But if it's at Tribeca, it shows them that it's a quality film.
it's something worth
Right.
their
That
time.
type of film.
Oh, okay. And now, do you talking about niche films like that? When you talk to the filmmakers, do you tell them that hey, the digital platforms are kind of looking for this type of film, dramas or documentaries?
Well, usually when they come to us,
it's just a film.
they already have that. This is the film I want you to consider.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's not a real
Yeah.
discussion for them. But sometimes we might wind up talking to them about their next film.
Oh, nice.
And what's
Okay.
important is we have some filmmakers now that we're on their fourth or fifth film because they're happy with the service that we provide
Yes.
and the relationship that we have. A lot of traditional distributors, are not very accessible. You
Right.
can't reach them on the phone. They don't return emails. And we're very accessible.
We're very
We're
transparent.
very transparent in our reporting,
Yes.
which is also something that's rare in the industry.
Right.
And so that's important to filmmakers. So we have a lot of filmmakers that come back to us with every new film we make.
Oh,
And we
beautiful.
love that.
Yes. Yes. And I'm assuming the digital platforms, anytime they change the type of films they want, they give you a heads up and let you know what their criteria
always.
is. No, not always.
Sometimes they-
Pretty much. Some of them take everything. Like, for example, Amazon depends on us to curate.
Okay.
They don't tell us what kind of films they want.
Okay.
And they don't curate. So
Yeah.
because we are actual enterprise level partners with them,
Yes.
they will take everything that we deem
Okay.
worthy.
They found that you've
Right.
done the vetting process enough,
Exactly.
and if it's to them,
Exactly.
it's going to be something.
Now, then there are other platforms like Hulu who have to be pitched a project. They want to know why you think it should be on.
Really? Yeah.
What are the sales points? They want
Yeah.
to know.
A little more complicated. Okay.
So,
The one thing that's important about Amazon for filmmakers, make sure that you go with a distributor that can get you on to Prime, because
Right.
a lot of filmmakers are messing up their distribution because they are submitting their film themselves and it becomes Amazon Instant. But Amazon Instant is not Amazon Prime, so it's
Yes.
very important. There's a confusion out there, but Amazon Prime is totally different than Amazon Instant, and you need to go to an aggregator for Amazon for that, because we're finding Amazon Prime, the films make pretty good money,
Yeah.
but if you're on Amazon Instant, it's very hard for a lot of people to whip out their credit card and buy an independent film they've never heard about.
Right.
So that's just a
A tidbit,
so
a
it's
little extra.
important to
tip.
find your distributor first
Yes.
and take their advice about those things.
Yes. And,
Rather than rush out and put your film on Vimeo or Amazon
Yes.
yourself.
yeah, just slow down.
Do your research first.
Because sometimes that can really mess up the distribution of your
Right, the
film.
windowing
Yes.
has
Gotcha.
become important.
and definitely go to Nelson Madison for all those great tips and everything, right? Well, we reached the end of the show. Michael, Linda, thank you, for taking the time and coming in. It's a wealth of knowledge that you guys have, because you're right. Everyone goes in kind of I don't want to say naive, but eyes wide,
Yeah.
big wide. My film is the greatest. This is the next Godfather or whatever.
Yeah.
But thanks you again, for sharing all that, and I know you don't need good luck. You guys are already working at it and having it all done. Thanks again. Appreciate
Well,
it.
it's our
Thanks for
pleasure
having
to be
us.
here. Thanks so much for having
Yeah,
us.
you bet. You bet. Hey, well, this is Gus Summers, and you've been listening to The In Show. We had in-studio guest Miss Linda Nelson and Mr. Michael Madison from Nelson Madison Films and Indie Rights Films. And you can get all that information. You can just look them up, Nelson Madison, and you can find out all they require to help you, distribute your film. Of course, you can visit us at at theinshow.com, where you'll be able to see this interview and everything else that we're doing. Of course, visit us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Flickr, all those great social media sites. And of course, remember, every Monday where we have in-show celebrities, where I take a few minutes just to talk about my favorite films and actors, which is a highlight for me because I love film, as everyone knows. But of course, we've gotten to that time, ladies and gentlemen. As always, Gus has left the building.